Hello, I'm Isaac from Watso Videos, where we discuss fun topics for fun people, and today I'm going to be discussing everything to do with The Last Jedi. If you're watching on the live stream, dude, thanks for checking in, and if you're watching on the replay, welcome to the video. So, first, what the agenda for today is I'll be discussing a little bit of non-spoiler discussion about The Last Jedi, then I'll move on to a bit of spoiler talks about the film, and finally we'll end with a Q&A session. You can ask me whatever you like, and once we get to that point, I'll be excited to answer some rapid-fire questions. But first, let's talk about that crazy movie. First, what the agenda for today. That was an insane film. Overall, I'll say, I had a great time with the movie. It was very exciting, I have to say. It moved on so seamlessly from The Force Awakens, which I enjoyed because it takes place immediately after the events of The Force Awakens. And I was a huge fan of what they did. Now, when I first went into it, I was kind of unsure of how I thought of the film. So I saw it initially on the release night on Thursday, December 14th. And there were a few parts that I was unsure about. The whole Rose and Finn side quest, where they go and adventure on the casino world of Canto Bight, felt a little slow at first. And there were many twists and turns that left me feeling extremely shocked and completely shook. And truly, this film changed a lot of my perspective of how I view the Skywalker story and Star Wars overall. I am kind of shocked that they were able to do this, but I'm really glad they did. The Force Awakens, I felt, was a good film, and I thought it was able to really bridge the gap between the original trilogy and the new ideas they wanted to bring forward. But I'm glad that they broke away from the mold that had already been established and brought us new twists and turns that weren't simply deaths of characters. So, with all of that being said, in my second viewing, which I saw yesterday, I felt a lot of my little troubles with it, a lot of the side things and the minor character things and the big reveals, those things kind of faded away from me in my second viewing, and I have a huge appreciation for the film now. I love The Last Jedi. And with that being said, it's time to move on to a bit of spoiler discussions. If you haven't seen it, I would highly recommend clicking off or muting it. Yeah, better luck. You should probably mute it. And once I am done discussing it, I will pull down the Isaac Carlson at Watso Videos banner. And that will begin the Q&A session. So, with that being said, let's move on to my thoughts on the huge spoilers that were in The Last Jedi. So, starting out, the whole side story with Rose and Finn. I understood why it was included. It made a lot of sense in the story, wrapping up at the end, which is something that occurred a lot in this film. There's a lot of story threads and ideas that are built up throughout the entirety of the film that are resolved at the conclusion, which can be confusing at first when you're watching the film. But once you understand those final wrap-up things, the whole story feels a lot more emotionally impactful. Now, I've been seeing a lot of things like Star Wars is just preaching about animal rights and everything like that, and I can see how that section of the film may feel that way on Canto Bight, but in the second viewing, I didn't see it that way as much. I saw it more as these were beings like any other that were being oppressed, just like the kids were being oppressed by by the First Order. This was just another example of the oppression of the First Order, that it doesn't just have effects on the people of every single world. Now, but that kind of all blurs away, and there's nothing huge in that. Something that was more significant was Luke Skywalker acknowledging that the Jedi were flawed, and acknowledging that Darth Sidious was able to destroy them and create the Empire at the peak of their powers. I thought that was an amazing reference, and I'm glad they referred to him as his Sith name of Darth Sidious, instead of just simply calling him the Emperor, which was the only term we had for him prior to the prequels. So I'm glad they made that little connection to the prequels. And Luke was making a lot of good points about the Jedi. These beings were brought up to be seen as this wonderful power, but in truth, they had they are susceptible to damage and corruption, just like any other organization, and his triumphs were not all successful. That after he was praised as the powerful Luke Skywalker, he created a similar character to Darth Vader, and Darth Vader before them was created by a Jedi. The Jedi were flawed, and I think that's something that people have been acknowledging since the prequels and since the original trilogy, once people started to learn about the Jedi ideology. And it's cool that they're moving forward in the story and acknowledging those flaws. Next, we'll go into more of the controversial big spoilers that, kind of rattled people, I'd say. Let's go into Rey's parents, for example. So, as you may remember, Rey's parents, they're just drinkers on Jakku, and they're dead. We're never gonna meet them, and they were just simple people. At first, I was kind of disappointed. I wanted it to be someone fantastic, someone huge, some explanation for why she had this innate Force ability. But I kind of understood it more now. So I looked at interviews from Rian Johnson and found that people, the reasoning behind this was that they didn't want an easy explanation for why Rey was in the story. And it's bringing back to this theme that's later developed throughout the story, and it's the idea that the light that Luke Skywalker held is not something exclusively to him. And I also kind of like it because Anakin didn't come from a powerful Force being. Shmi had no Force abilities. She was a slave on a planet and died she was freed, but she lived and died pretty much as a slave. She met her husband because he bought her. Her life was encapsulated as a slave, but she created one of the most powerful Force beings who shaped the galaxy for decades after her. And this is kind of what I feel like is happening with Rey and the other Force sensitives that are referenced in this story. These people have the ability to influence huge events, even though they don't have the powerful Skywalker blood that's been hyped up and believed to occur in every single film. That after Empire, that was just the expectation that everyone was tied together. Well, actually, after Last Jedi, or after Return of the Jedi, because Vader was his father and Leia was his sister, and all of a sudden everyone was related. And so I think it's kind of cool that we can finally have a primary character who is not linked with the Skywalkers. Kind of cool. I've come to terms with that twist. So next, let's talk about Yoda coming back as a Force ghost. That was sweet. I was super excited, and I was like, that kind of looks like a weird Yoda. But then as the scene goes on, I'm like, that is the Empire Strikes Back Yoda. And sure enough, that was an actual puppet. There was no CGI involved. They used, obviously, special effects to make him glowing and blue, but that was a puppet. Now, that was so cool. And I liked that we got to see the power of the spirits of the Force create powerful events. He is one with the Force, and he shows it with his lightning blast onto the tree. I thought that was really cool, and I'm glad that Luke got to have that one-on-one moment with one of his previous masters again. So then let's go on to see. That's one of those that's like, I don't see how anyone couldn't think that was cool. That was a cool moment. Yoda was in it again. But then we got Snoke's death. Okay, that was a little more shaking, and I was not expecting it at all. And I felt like the first time I watched it, it came out of the blue, and I was like, whoa, great. So now we proved that Snoke has like no power, because he said, I can see everything that's within your head. But somehow he didn't see that he was going to be betrayed. But when I saw it the second time, I realized everything that Kylo was thinking was purposely thought so he could deceive him. He said that he's moving his blade to defeat his true enemy. So as he's moving the Luke Skywalker's lightsaber towards Snoke, he's also moving his own lightsaber towards Rey. And then he thinks that I'm going to activate it and kill my true enemy. And that's when he activates the lightsaber. And so his thoughts were truly actively deceiving Snoke. And I thought that was brilliant and so cool the second time. I was kind of shook because I thought he was going to be the new emperor. And I'm sure eventually we'll learn about his background. But I thought it was great, thinking about it now, that Kylo has the chance to just release all of his anger. No one is holding him back anymore. He doesn't have Han to hold him back from the light, to tempt him to the light. Luke is now gone, which we'll discuss towards the end of this spoiler talk. And then, and now he doesn't even have a master. He doesn't even have anyone over him in the dark side to watch over him any longer. So now he can just go crazy. He's throwing Hux around. He's going onto the ground to fight Luke. He has no restraints anymore, and we can finally see his conflict come through fruition and truly see what type of craziness he's going to cause, because I'm sure there will be some. So I was shocked at first that Snoke died, but I think it's going to benefit Kylo, and I know that eventually we'll get Snoke's story. And another thing about that, I was especially disappointed that we didn't learn about anything about his background, but Rian Johnson, the director of Last Jedi, also discussed this and stated that if Snoke would have suddenly said something like, I am Darth Plagueis, or something along those lines, like, Rey wouldn't have understood what that meant. None of the characters would know who that is. So it wouldn't have been relevant for the situation. It would have been cool for us, but Rey wouldn't have understood it. She barely understands the Force. She doesn't know anything about the history of Force users. So I can understand that situation. Then another little disappointing thing about the film was the lack of use of Captain Phasma. So she was barely in the Force Awakens, and she is barely in this one. She is definitely the Boba Fett of this film, of this trilogy. She's a super cool character, looks super cool, super hyped up. Like, everyone wants the toys, yet she doesn't really do much, and it's kind of disappointing. But she still goes out better than Boba Fett did. Boba Fett got destroyed when Han Solo was blind. So that's kind of embarrassing, but Captain Phasma doesn't go out on a huge note, better note. She just doesn't get up. She's laying there and she just falls down. Once again, a little disappointing, but I don't know. I don't know how else they could have included her. I mean, she could have flown with like Kylo Ren when they were going to attack the ships after the original battle, I think they could have included her in other situations throughout the film to make her seem like a more threatening figure that's constantly present throughout the First Order. But oh well. Another thing is that Poe had a big side mission throughout the whole thing. That Poe, Finn, and Rose were going after their side mission to try to save the Resistance. And for Rose, I didn't really understand like what she was trying to go for. Like I understood like she was frustrated with the First Order and everything like that, and that when she saved Finn and she wants to like protect the peoples that she loves. But I felt like Finn's sacrifice when he's confronting the First Order, that could have been a really powerful moment. Finn, I felt like kind of in that moment when he was going, I guess I better explain this. So I'm talking about the Battle of Crate, when the miniature Death Star tech is going to shoot into the base. And then Finn is going on the ski towards the miniature Death Star tech, and he's going to go try to blow it up. I felt like that was a really powerful moment for him because he's finally established that he is willing to stay and fight, and he's no longer willing to run. I thought that was really cool for his character. Now, so Rose is fine. I understand where she's coming from. Finn, I feel like, is developed, and then Poe. Poe, I was surprised how much he was developed in this film, because in the last one he was originally supposed to die in The Force Awakens, but they realized partway through that they could keep him in. So that's why in the Battle of Takodana, he's doing all those flips and zooms and everything like that. That's how they were able to include him. I think that was a really cool decision, and now we can understand why in the story more. Now I feel like he's going to be the future leader of the Resistance, and we got to see his growth as a leader, and understand that like Leia is teaching him how to be that true leader, and I think that's really powerful, and I think that's a really cool story arc for Poe. Honestly, he's developing into be one of the most dynamic characters in it, and I'm glad we got to see him grow throughout the story. And we finally see him truly grow when Finn is communicating with Poe and saying that they need to go help Luke once Luke steps out onto the battlefield, but Poe holds them back and states, no, we're not going into this violence, that we need to escape and fight another day. That was something that was really cool, and I'm glad they included that little moment for Poe. So, we've got the final climax. We've got Kylo Ren facing off against Luke. Luke, of course, turns out to be just a Force projection, and that is a super interesting decision. I kind of wish he would have been able to show up, and he could have fully used his Force powers there, and then maybe have perished. I understand what they were doing. He stated that he wanted to die on Ahch-To, but I still wish he could have shown off his true powers and actually clash with Kylo Ren, but I felt like it was still a really cool and powerful moment for him to reveal that he was manipulating Kylo Ren the entire time, and that he had this power, and that he was actually not even there. And although I didn't truly love that conflict as much as I did in the Red Room with Rey and Kylo Ren fighting the Red Guards, but I was kind of shocked at Luke Skywalker's death, but I enjoyed the symbolism and the arc of Luke Skywalker, that he was the symbol of hope, and at the very end of his life, he was able to confront the entire First Order and bring hope again to the galaxy, and by making that sacrifice and showing off his power to Kylo Ren and facing him, they were able to continue the resistance and rebuild or rebirth the rebellion. And that was something that was really cool, and I'm glad Luke got to be a part of that. And when he dies, we get to see the two sons, and that's a perfect little moment for his character. So, also, referring to the projections, I also wanted to state that I really enjoyed the connection between Rey and Kylo Ren throughout the story and their dynamic. That's something that I haven't really discussed yet, that they were linked up through Snoke for a lot of the story, and I love their character communication between them. They have really great chemistry throughout the story, and I love those two characters probably the most. They're definitely my favorite characters out of the new trilogy characters. Obviously, I mean, I've got both the toys here. So I liked that they were able to communicate throughout the story, and that they were trying to pull each other in together, and each one thought the other one was going to turn to their side. And when they finally realize that they're not together, that's a really powerful moment. And I think when they clash in the future, it's going to be so much more powerful now that we know that they have this connection and see the value in one another. Man. And so to wrap up the film, the rebellion is reborn, and the boy with the broomstick from the planet of the casino world, he forced the broomstick, and we end with him looking to the stars. I was kind of disappointed with this ending at first. Once again, there's a lot of those times where it's like, I just wasn't expecting certain things out of the film. I thought that when we saw the rebellion be reborn, that was going to be the ending. But seeing him there, we finally get to see that Luke Skywalker's story is perpetuating the galaxy, that it's spreading everywhere, that hope is coming to every individual, and that the light within Luke Skywalker is not just exclusively to him or Rey. It's to anyone who has hope in their hearts. And I think that's kind of a cool lesson, and I'm glad that that's the story that they're telling, that's the hope they're trying to bring. I think that's pretty cool arc. So those were my thoughts on The Last Jedi, and I'm really excited that they created this film. I think it came out really well. And so now it's time for the questions from all of you. It's time for the Q&A. So the spoilers are over. You can come and start asking me questions. I'm willing to speak to all of you. Adventure Time LPS. Hi, what's going on? Because I'm late to the live stream. Well, we were just discussing everything to do with The Last Jedi, but we are all done discussing that right now, and we are moving on to the Q&A. So thanks for coming on, even though you're a little late. That's totally fine. You can hop on whenever you like. Alejandra Zaharias says, light or dark side? Alright. Personally, okay, I think in real life, I would choose light side. I think that's a pretty simple decision for me. I don't think I'd actually be evil, but I really think the powers of the dark side are pretty cool, although we are seeing a lot of escalation in the light side as well. That's pretty cool. And the other thing is that I'm loving Kylo Ren a ton right now. So So if I want the powers, I'd go dark side, but I think in real life I'd choose light side. Country Girl asks, hey Watso, what's your favorite Star Wars movie? Alright. See, okay, the trouble is currently is that I have different nostalgia levels for different sections of the films because they all came out at different times. I've seen them at different points in my life. So we've got the prequels. That's easy for me. Revenge of the Sith is definitely my favorite, and it's probably the Star Wars film I've seen the most. I was a prequel kid when I was growing up. I have really fond memories of Episode 1 and Darth Maul. I remember going to see Revenge of the Sith in theaters. So that film has a really close connection with me. I also really enjoy Episode 4 and Episode 5. Those films I feel like are really good and establish a lot of the sweet lore behind all of Star Wars. But I also really like The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi. So overall, it's kind of difficult for me to decide. If I had to choose one right now, I would probably choose Force Awakens. I really like the blending of the new characters and the old, and I like the direction that they created, and I feel like I'm still riding that hype train from 2015. I'm still just in love with Rey and all the new characters and the new direction that they're going. So I'd probably choose Force Awakens right now. All right. Nikki Toons says, do you think the next Star Wars movie is going to be good? Yeah, I think the next Star Wars film is going to be sick. I think that the next film is going to take place after a larger duration, since The Force Awakens and The Last Jedi literally took place immediately after one another. I think the next film is going to have some more power behind it. We'll have Rey actually studying the Jedi texts that she took from Ahch-To and from the tree. I think she'll have fully studied that and had an understanding of the Force once she goes into that film. And Kylo Ren is going to have established himself as a powerful figure in the galaxy, and I think the rebellion is going to be to a closer place to what it was in Episode 4, where they're an established force that hasn't had a victory yet against the powerful overhead. So I think there's going to be a huge setup, and I'm really excited to see the conflict between all of these characters ensue and see how that completely develops. I'm super excited to see how they'll continue to develop the Force and develop the idea of balance, and see how Rey and Kylo Ren will end their stories, because I'm super excited to see where they're going to continue to go. Okay. Ravenclaw Pride Potter Games says, what's your favorite Jedi? See, alright, so I'll just explain my thought process. So, for a long time, I really like Obi-Wan. Obi-Wan is probably my, favorite character from the prequel films. But then, I also... And Luke Skywalker, I've grown to enjoy a ton now that there is the new trilogy, because now I'm having a larger connection with him through these new films, because I watched the original trilogy actually later than I did the prequels. I remember the first time I watched the original trilogy, but I don't remember the first time I watched the prequels other than Episode 3. So the original trilogy, I'm a little bit less disconnected to, but these new films I've been excited about, and I have this huge connection with Luke now. But I mean, this is kind of cheap and silly, but I really, really like Rey. Rey is probably my favorite. Rey is I don't really know. It might be because I'm infatuated with the character, but I just really love the character and seeing her progress and seeing her develop as the story continues to go on. So it's probably Rey right now. Oh, Isabel Vernalia says, thoughts on Carrie Fisher in The Last Jedi. That was something I actually had thought about that I hadn't really addressed in my large discussion on the film. So Carrie Fisher. Carrie Fisher did a great job as General Leia Organa in The Last Jedi. What I thought was so great about her was how she continued to feel like Leia. She perfectly continued to capture the aged Princess Leia that we all knew and loved, and her. And I know that there's the bit of a debate about her using like the Force to like transport her out of space, but I thought that was a really cool moment to be honest. I thought that was pretty sweet when she did that, and I don't think it would have been like that difficult of task just to like moving yourself through an empty vacuum, but so I think that was within her powers. And I liked that she was mentoring characters and caring about characters, and she was invested in the world, and she was taking an active role. Now, the one thing I would have changed probably was that there was I forgot her name, the lady with the purple hair. The lady with the purple hair crashed her ship into Supreme Leader Snoke's craft. And I feel like that could have been cool to have been done by Leia, because Leia stated that she didn't want any more sacrifices. But then she goes on the ship and lets her friend sacrifice herself. Now, I think it kind of stinks that she couldn't. That could have been a way to explain Leia's absence in episode 9, but I'm sure at the time of recording that they had a vision for her in episode 9. But that's just something I've heard around YouTube as an idea, and I thought that would have been a really cool scene. Overall, though, I really liked Leia's inclusion in The Last Jedi. Okay. Vice Admiral Holdo. Very good. Thank you, Baby Groot. That's her name. The girl with the purple hair is Vice Admiral Holdo. Rebecca Basta says, what's your favorite part of the movie? I think my favorite part is the battle between Rey and Kylo and Supreme Leader Snoke's guards. That stuff is just so cool. When they're fighting together and both going from it from like two completely different perspectives, but still working together. Oh god, it was super cool. And I like that, like, I love the fights in the prequels, but these new fights feel so much like more natural and like unplanned, even though that they are choreographed. It feels like gritty, similar to the world in Star Wars. I really have been enjoying that fight specifically when I've watched it again. All right. Helen or Halen, I'm not sure. Tally says, what is your favorite thing about being on YouTube? I really enjoy that I can create videos about topics that I want to discuss anyway and make a job out of it, and be able to create a community with a group of people that share my enjoyment of the topics that I can discuss these movies and ideas with is super exciting as well. Because personally, like, not all my friends have seen The Last Jedi yet, and not all my friends share the same level of excitement about Disney films as I do. Sure, a lot of them have seen a lot of the films, but not everyone stays as up to date and watches it as closely as I do. So being able to meet other people, being able to discuss these ideas with a community of people, and being able to like discuss this with so many fun people on the internet is just a really cool experience, and I'm glad I have the opportunity to do this. Oh, this is good. Maddie does DIY. What do you think about the new Porgs? All right, dude, I am shipping the Porgs. Porgs are awesome. Porgs are super cool. See, the thing about the Porgs are, they're not invasive at all. Like, I never felt that the Porgs got annoying. The Porgs were just kind of there. they were part of the environment in the world, and they were doing things that you would expect little creatures to go do. They were breaking into the Millennium Falcon and biting the cords. They were constantly cawing. They were all sad when Chewbacca was going to eat one of them. That was hilarious. I felt like they were integrated perfectly, and I think they're hilarious. And I feel like somehow I want some little Porg toy. I don't know if it's going to be a pop figure or a plush or something, but I want like little group of Porgs around my room now, because I thought they were hilarious. They were not, I felt like they didn't overstay their welcome at all. Yes, Isabel Vernalia, Porgs for life. That is for darn sure. Porgs are awesome. Okay, Ethan Einstein says, who is Snoke? Dude, we don't know. No, I don't think anyone knows yet. No one knows who Snoke is. I've heard rumors that there's going to be a Snoke novel at some point, just simply titled Snoke, and we'll learn about the backstory about him and how he rose to power. I think that's going to be a really important story to tell, and I think we're eventually going to get it, and it just wasn't relevant in the story in The Last Jedi. So, we don't know yet, but I think we're going to get some answers soon. Okay, what is... Ooh. Backstake Fan. But, yeah, Backstake Fan, Little Babate. I think that's how you'd say your name. What two characters do you think will end up together in the next film? Alright. Okay, so let's go into the little topic of shipping, everyone. So we've got Finn and Rey. That's kind of something that I've seen before. That was something my friend kind of shipped. I was kind of unsure about that. Not a huge fan of that ship. There's the whole Rey and Kylo Ren, which I could kind of see happening, although they're kind of on different sides right now, so we'll just kind of have to see about that. And then there's also Finn and Rose, since Rose kissed Finn, although Finn seemed completely shocked about that. He seems like he's got more of a thing for Rey, so I don't know. I don't really want... I just kind of want them to all have, like, relationships with each other. I don't necessarily need them to all, like, have a, like, specific ship. Like, I don't know if anyone actually needs to end up together. I think they'll all just have, like, relationships with everyone, kind of. I don't know, that's just my opinion. Like, I don't necessarily need anyone to specifically fall in love. Because I don't think it's been established well enough. Like, the only one that's kind of been alluded to enough is Finn and Rose, since they kissed. Similarly to Han Solo and Leia kissing in Empire, and Padme and Anakin getting married in Attack of the Clones. So I feel like since those two characters are the only ones who've kissed so far, that they're the only ones who could end up together, because I don't want it to be a rushed development. Okay. What would happen if... Andres Hernandez says, what would happen if Snoke was an apprentice of Darth Vader? I don't think that will happen. Mainly because I think Snoke is more ancient than Vader. So I feel like Snoke has been growing his power over time. And we don't know how long he's been alive, but it's definitely longer than Vader. I feel like Snoke could not have seen value in being Vader's apprentice when Vader was willing to seek out an apprentice. So I don't necessarily think that could happen. I think if that did happen, I think that'd be kind of a cool revelation. Maybe he could have been a fallen inquisitor then, or something like that. I think it's a possibility. We really just don't know, though. Christian West says, I have a question. Can you do Gil from Descendants? Yeah. I'll definitely eventually discuss Gil from Descendants, son of Gaston. I will probably do that sometime in January, I think. I think that'll probably be a good time to do it. I haven't done a Descendants video in a while, so I'll probably do that then. What do you think? Do you think? Jackie Wilson, do you like Porgs or Chewbacca? Dude, Chewbacca's a classic character, but I want Porgs around my room. So I like them in different ways. Morven Sastro, Disney crush? Question mark? Dude, it's probably Ray or Belle. Those are my current favorites. Rebecca's Creations says, what's your thoughts on Coco? If you're unfamiliar with Coco, since this is a Star Wars stream, Coco is Disney Pixar's newest film. Personally, I loved Coco. Coco was a really emotional story. I felt like it was great that Pixar was going back to a new story that had been previously not explored in a previous film. A lot of their upcoming films and a lot of their previous films have been sequels. We had Finding Dory, Cars 3, then we had Coco, and now it's going to be Incredibles 2 and Toy Story 4. So I like that we're getting an Incredibles 2 and a Toy Story 4, but I'm kind of disappointed that we're getting fewer original stories, fewer unique worlds than at the start of Pixar. I'm glad they're continuing on these stories, like I said, and of course I'll definitely be excited to go see them. But I think there's something to be said about creating a whole new world and creating a whole new set of characters like Coco was able to create. Coconuts said, referenced something about the Infinity War. Here, I'll scroll back up. Are you excited for Infinity War? So, Avengers Infinity War Part 1. I believe it comes out the 25th of May of next year. I am hyped for sure. See, I've kind of been receiving a bit of Marvel fatigue. What I loved about like the original Spider-Man 1 and 2 was that they were stories specifically about the supers, and it developed them and their villains in one contained story. And although the MCU somewhat does that, I feel like their linking to the other worlds and references is sometimes takes away from the individual character's story. Knowing that everything has to link to other things to make it seem relevant in the overall story is something that was a cool novelty at first, but at times just has kind of been exhausting me. But going into Infinity War, I'm super excited for the film. The trailer convinced me right away. With the Avengers theme playing, it was just, it was so cool. It gave me chills when I first saw it. It still does when I go see it in theaters. It's a super cool experience, and I'm glad that it's coming out. I hope in Phase 4 we get a few more specifically character-driven stories that don't have to more blatantly link with everything else. Like Spider-Man Homecoming had Iron Man throughout all of it and referenced the Avengers a ton with all the tech and everything like that. And it's cool that like the events that have occurred in the past are making changes in future films. But I just felt like it was too much of a, this is part of the MCU movie, but I really wanted just a story about Spider-Man. And then Thor Ragnarok does it again with having Doctor Strange. Although I was really excited that there was a Doctor Strange cameo. It's just, I don't know. I just want like a contained stories as well. I saw a thing. Baby Groot says, thoughts on 20th Century Fox and Disney deal. That was something I've kind of wanted to discuss openly, but so I'm glad you were able to ask about it. So my thoughts. I think it's pretty exciting as a Disney fan that they're acquiring more IP. I think there's a video by the YouTuber Ron Plays who kind of goes through the pros and cons of the deal. I think that he describes it well by saying that there's two facets of the deal. There's an entertainment side to it and a business side to the deal. So for the entertainment side, us Disney fans can see this as really exciting, that now that they have control of X-Men and Fantastic Four and Deadpool, although hopefully Deadpool just stays in the hands of Ryan Reynolds and he can just do whatever he wants, because he really wouldn't fit into the MCU anyway. But having all of that property under their control is really powerful, and I'm sure we're going to see it fully utilized in film and the parks. But from a business perspective, with the centralized control by one corporation, it could mean that they could extend some of their reach into consumer pockets and start kind of pushing the boundaries of their customers. Although that could be a fear, I don't see it happening as much with Disney. I think I think they're good at finding the balance so far of how to monetize their customers without running their customers dry. But they're no EA with Battlefront. So I think it'll be fine. I'm excited to see what they'll do with all of the IP. And I think Phase 4 of the MCU will be the first major change that we'll see after 2019. Okay. Helen Tally says, how long have you been doing YouTube? I made a previous YouTube account in 2011 that I posted a few stop motions on. But then I created this account in 2012, and that was going to be focused more on Star Wars. And I posted a few videos throughout the years, but then I started doing this on a consistent basis in 2015. And that's really when I feel like I started like a YouTube career, although I started the channel in 2012. So yeah, that's my history on the platform so far. Oh, bless me. Oh, goodness. Christian West says, can you do Vanellope von Schweetz from Wreck-It Ralph backstory? I sure can. I do have a video describing the powers of Vanellope and describe why she still glitches at the end of the film. So that is something you could check out right now. But yeah, I'll definitely discuss her backstory more in the future. Although I'll probably wait to discuss some of the characters' stories after Wreck-It Ralph 2. It's really hard to make videos on movies that I know will have more information in the future, like Frozen. Right now, it's like there's going to be more information in Frozen 2 for sure, and Wreck-It Ralph 2, and like Big Hero 6 as well, with the new series coming out. It's hard to make things on that when you know that more canonical information is coming soon. Rebecca's Creation says, what was the first Disney park that you visited? Oh, I don't know. I know that it was first Disney World, but I think it probably would have been the Magic Kingdom. Magic Kingdom is probably, it's one of my favorites. Although I like Disney World. I have much more connection to Disney World. I'm much more of a Disney World fanboy. That's the place I've been the most. That's the place you can have those week-long vacations with, and the 4 parks, everything like that. It's a wonderful place. Nevergirl says, what is your favorite ride in Disney World / land? I would probably say my favorite ride is Space Mountain. That's that's probably the ride I like the most. But I think probably the most jaw-dropping experience right now in the Disney parks is definitely the Flight of Passage in the land of Avatar when you fly a Banshee. It's a completely new experience, and it's very impressive what the Disney Imagineers were able to create with that ride. It's oh my gosh, it gave like after experiencing Disney World for so long, experiencing the premier amusement parks through like they're some of the best, most visited parks in the entire world. And when you can go into experience like that and experience something that you've never felt before, actually flying and feeling like you're on an animal and feeling that exhilaration and the actual flight, it's insane what they were able to do. And that's probably the best. That's probably the best ride right now. Although I have the probably the biggest connection with Space Mountain. I really like Space Mountain. Sammy173 says, can you do more Harry Potter videos? Actually, yes. That's something that I'm actually also planning to do in January and in 2018 is to start doing a few more Harry Potter videos. I have a friend, Ben Prince, who is way more into Harry Potter than I am. He's got a huge allegiance to the fantasy idea. He read all the books, he's seen all the movies. He's got a deep understanding on it, and so he's going to start coming up with some ideas and questions for me to develop. Because part of my problem right now is that I just don't have enough information to start asking questions that people are going to want to watch. I definitely have that deep knowledge on Disney, but Harry Potter I'm a little bit weaker on, and that's why I'm going to start recruiting my friend Ben to help out. That is another good question. Ethan Einstein says, how did Maz get the lightsaber? I hope they explain that too. Goodness, I really hope they explain that eventually. I hope that in some comic book eventually, or some story, that we're finally going to be able to understand that story. I think that it'll be coming up eventually. We'll definitely get the answer eventually, but I'm kind of hoping that is something that gets resolved soon. There's so many questions in The Force Awakens and now The Last Jedi that I hope will be explained soon. I'm super excited about the information that's going to be coming out of Star Wars and Disney soon, and I'm really, really excited for what's going to come. All right. I think I'm going to answer one more question, and then I will sign off. So, Hayden C. says, question, what is your favorite movie by Pixar? All right. Okay. I think currently my favorite is the Monsters Inc. / Monsters University films. What I really enjoy about those is that they have such a creative world, and I really enjoy the dynamic between Mike and Sully. I really love the connection that they have, and I love Mike's perseverance, and the humor is so good. I wouldn't say it's the perfect stories or anything like that. Like, I think Up is a much more emotional and and it's an extremely creative story. And Toy Story trilogy, soon to have 4 films, is of course our classics, but Monsters Inc. is something that I've always had a strong connection to. So I'd probably say those are my favorite. So this has been the Waso live stream for today. I replaced my normal video that I posted because I had a lot of thoughts on The Last Jedi I wanted to bring out there to everyone all at once, and I felt like there wasn't just one specific topic that I could narrow down to discuss for an entire video. So I'm glad I was able to come and discuss all of these ideas with all of you and allow you to ask some questions for me. I'm really excited I was able to do this. So if you enjoyed this live stream and you'd like to see more like it, then click that like button. If you'd like to see more new magical videos, then click that subscribe button and follow me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. All the links are in the description. And finally, thanks for watching. Have a magical day, and may the Force be with you.